But first, let's turn to the case of Conor Burns MP, accused of inappropriate conduct at last week's Conservative Party conference. Number 10 said, and I quote, "Following a complaint of serious misconduct, the Prime Minister has asked Conor Burns MP to leave the government with immediate effect. The Prime Minister took direct action on being informed of this allegation and is clear that all ministers should maintain the high standards of behaviour as the public rightly expects." Close quotes. Mr. Burns says he's been given no detail of these specific allegations and says that he regrets what he describes as the party's rush to judgment. He hoped the matter could be resolved as swiftly as the party had acted in dismissing him. Well, the investigation is, of course, a matter for others, not least Mr. Burns himself, the complainant and the Conservative Party. But what can we do is this: ask what the swiftness of action tells us about Liz Truss's Conservative Party and about Liz Truss herself. And to discuss that, I'm delighted to be joined by Conservative supporter, friend of mine and political commentator, Alice Grant. I'm going to start, for those who are listening to our conversation on radio, I'll hold it up, those on telly can see it. It's The Guardian today. Minister sacked for serious misconduct. If you really were to zoom in, and it's, I'm joking slightly, there are quotation marks there around serious misconduct, because it's allegations, nothing is proven, but he is out of a job. What does it tell you as a commentator about the Truss attitude towards even allegations?
Well, she's acted very swiftly and decisively. I think we saw how the Chris Pincher scandal really brought down Boris, or set off that chain, which ultimately led to him being ousted in Parliament. And she wants to do things differently. However, I do think that innocence until proven guilty was once extremely important to our society, and we're increasingly seeing that it's being replaced by this sort of immediate cancel culture, which I find quite concerning as a Conservative, and as someone who genuinely believes in preserving British values and what we've held in our nation for so long. So I think...
But being devil's advocate, I mean, we've talked about counterculture and cancelling and woke and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But to me, there's something much more profound in this, and that is that sentence has been handed down before the evidence is presented and before a presumably jury of his peers and the leading lights in the Conservative Party have assessed it. So in the future, all you've got to do if you want to get somebody out is make an allegation.
Exactly.
I mean, that's profoundly wrong.
And we're not only seeing that in government, but in workplaces as well. Many people aren't feeling safe anymore to be able to air views which are deemed even slightly maybe controversial. And in workplaces there are, you know, this problem happens time and time again. And Conor Burns' own colleagues have stated how hardworking he was, and he himself seems very confused by these allegations, taking to Twitter to express his dismay at being so quickly fired from his job, which he was doing well. So I think that, obviously we don't know what he was accused of. It might as well be serious, but until then, it seems as though there's already a media storm about it, and his name has been dragged to a certain extent. So we'll have to wait and see. But
the other thing that one or two of the papers are making a lot of is the fact that he wasn't only in the previous administration, but he was one of the up front and centre Boris Johnson supporters. Is there a bit of factionalism going on here?
I think there's always a bit of factionalism in politics, and certainly it perhaps could be a reason why Liz Truss did oust him so swiftly from his position. Obviously, I think we are in a new administration, and I think the Conservative Party have got behind Truss, and I'm sure Conor Burns did also support her too, but it could potentially be a reason why he was ousted so quickly.
The other thing that struck me reflecting upon it, which I genuinely find fascinating, is that in the olden days, in inverted commas, allegations, I mean, even going right back to the Telegraph investigation into MPs' expenses, and that was a real scandal, no doubt about that at all. But there were stories of bungs and cash and money, buying influence, buying peerages, all sorts of stuff like that. With Conor, whatever did or didn't happen, the allegations are sexual. With Mr. Pincher, the allegations were sexual, etc., etc., etc. double figures of MPs in the last 18 months have come up against that particular issue. Is that what you were getting at when you were saying about, cancel culture, or has there been a shift that people are genuinely and constructively more sensitive about personal behaviour between people?
Well, I think politicians are in their own kind of category when it comes to public standards and morals and behaviour. I think that certainly our politicians have a duty to represent us as best they can as our elected members of Parliament, and I think they should definitely be held to accountability for their actions, and there should be, for sure, a higher standard of morality expected of our politicians and our leaders.